All right, folks, let's get started. Yeah, Dan is here. So yeah, we've got a quorum, we got everybody here. We got no public, we got no public in attendance currently.
Recording that?
Yeah, recording is on. It's been on for since I fired that thing up. Can we get a timekeeper and a minutes taker for this evening?
I'm happy to be a timekeeper. If that's the pleasure of the group.
I was gonna waffle that one, not the minutes.
Do you want to do time?
I can do time and get it to Bruce.
Fine.
I can do minutes.
Perfect.
Time is the end. Minutes.
Excellent. And then, did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes from October 13th?
They look good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly, doing management plan revision, so there wasn't a whole lot to add. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any additions or changes to the agenda?
The minutes were approved from, what was that date on the last one?
10/13.
Just the other day.
Yeah, we're back on every other week schedule.
they come very quickly.
Yeah, they do. I was so, like, last meeting, I was so off balance because it had been 3 weeks and it felt like it'd been a while. Okay, so, yeah, we can do a quick recap of the wetland walk, which was kind of the last ACF meeting, but on the website, it shows it's canceled because we didn't have a quorum. And basically, it needed to be posted because we could have had a quorum, we were one below. And I basically told Duncan, like, hey, we took a few notes, we didn't have a quorum. And he said, oh, I'll just mark it as canceled. So it still happened, we still met. And I included the, just my write-up of, what we talked about. That's by no means comprehensive. But yeah, the main takeaways from that were, we mostly just visited the big wetlands that's just south of the Bass Trail. And that's one of the main spots that we are concerned about because of, potential trails, either continuing to use the Bass Trail, or do we want to route around it? We've talked about boardwalks, we've talked about, just how do we handle that section? And the main takeaway was Tina wasn't able to do an actual analysis and tell us, yes, this is in fact a class 2 wetlands, but she said it is very likely these are class 2 wetlands. And she had mentioned that any type of filling, benching, grading, or clearing around that area within 50 feet would need a permit. And she also mentioned that even if you're taking fill from the site and just moving it, not bringing outside fill, you'd still need a permit for that.
She, if I may, she also said, which surprised me. If under agricultural or forestry use, you were modifying that section of the road. You need a permit because it's potentially a class 2 wetlands, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
They
So-
have jurisdiction over ag too.
Right,
Does the classification go beyond just the square footage? Are there other things she has to look at?
So it's just a buffer, and for class 2 is a 50-foot buffer.
Yeah,
Right.
But to qualify as a class 2 versus a 3, is it more than the?
Yeah,
2,500
I think it's a square footage, and then there's a class 3 can become a class 2 if there's like interaction with groundwater.
No, okay.
They also bump them into class 2.
Did you say ag and forestry, right?
yep,
I think just ag.
okay.
I don't think they have jurisdiction over forestry.
I thought it was both, but Tina mentioned that they require different permitting, but they do, I think both require
Is
permitting.
it for both?
She definitely said that both silviculture and agricultural uses require permits.
Yep, to modify the road in that section.
So basically the main takeaway that I had from that, and other folks might have additional things they would like to mention, but the main takeaway for me was that if we're talking about routing any kind of traffic through there, and there's definitely currently traffic from Maple Wind probably coming down, or, maybe going up. Using that to connect with the Maple Wind farm trails seems that rather than trying to, construct some kind of boardwalk along the vast trail, it would make more sense to just have a trail that goes probably about, 50 feet minus the width of the road north of that trail, if we wanted to route traffic through there, because it would allow Bruce and, any equipment, vehicles to go up and down that road. And then we could route the traffic elsewhere, which would keep the road in better shape. And also wouldn't require boardwalks, it might just require a few stream crossing, like just a few small bridges.
So the ag traffic would continue.
Yes, it would, basically, if you put a boardwalk on that existing, section, then all of a sudden, not only do you need a boardwalk for that entire thing, because it gets pretty wet and soggy, but also Bruce isn't gonna be able to drive the tractor through there, and about half of it switches from ACF, it's, Richmond's land, where Maple Wind has a right of way, and then it switches to Maple Wind with, the right of way for the forest. And because of that, we need to make sure that he can still get his tractor through there, so, a boardwalk would have to go to the side anyway, and it doesn't make any sense to put it closer to the wetlands. So if we're talking about that, it'd be easy enough to just, route a trail up 50 feet and have it just go sort of up and over, and then it would be drier. And there's a few stream crossings, but that would be a lot cheaper, and, so that's just something I wanted to mention, because, as we are currently in the finishing up the rec section,
Yeah.
that might be something that we want to consider, especially considering maybe if we're talking about reroutes, versus an entirely new trail, maybe there's special consideration for something like that. If you're trying to reroute traffic
Yeah.
from the vast trail 50 feet, maybe, there's special language, we'll get into it later, but I just wanted to call that out. And then we talked a little bit about class 3 wetlands. They're not really regulated, but we're encouraged to preserve them. And Tina said that any future trail development in the forest should consider wetlands, and should include but not be limited to the state watershed management division. So basically, if we are gonna put a trail in, even if we get, a professional to come in and take a look, Tina said there's no harm in calling us to come take a look as well.
Yeah.
And, could be that they don't find anything, but that is, better than us, proceeding and then finding out, oh, we had a wetland, and we didn't, contact the state or anything like that, so. Tina verified that it's not an inconvenience to them for us to reach out and say like, hey, could you take a look?
Cool, that's great. Is it hard to find a class 3 wetland? I mean, like, they're so vague in the definition, is like, how hard is it to figure out? Oh, they're
I think that's
Like
where
found
if we had a flagged corridor for a trail, Tina could come out and say, this is a class 3, why don't you move over there?
Gotcha.
Or it all looks good.
So you wouldn't try to map all the 3s out in the first place, you would map in reaction or monitor. in
Yeah,
reaction.
I think
because-
if you stumble on them is one thing, but I think that's what's happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because when Sinuosity did those original map,
yeah,
then that triggered the hiring Airwood
yeah,
to go and walk those routes and look for stuff.
gotcha.
And that's where I think they found a couple of new wetlands by that, but that's strictly only because the trail is gonna go.
Got it.
And they say, all right, you gotta route it around this.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, but you're right,
Okay.
some of them are, they found 5, or they listed 5. And I think some, if not all, have been found before, I don't know.
Yeah,
But they found 5 and 3 are 3s, 2 are 2s,
okay.
you know.
Did she mention seasonality at all? I know we had that discussion last time about you wanna look this time of year, but not that time of year.
No, the only thing she mentioned was that they only do on the ground, like site visits from, what was it? So they stopped at the end of October, so we just got in before they close up shop for winter. And do like, managerial work, like indoors, and I wanna say it was April,
April,
maybe it might have even been May. It
May
wasn't March,
to
I
November,
think it was
I
May,
think.
okay,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah, so that's another thing to keep in mind, that
comment.
they're not gonna do a site visit, we could. Get lined up for a site visit, in May, or, or get on the list, I guess, but,
So how did you ask that? Sorry.
I asked.
If there was a.
If there are seasonal
Seasonality.
considerations.
Yeah, no consideration as to when you look for wetlands.
I think they're the pros, right? So it seemed like they're pretty capable of figuring out
Mhm.
where they are.
Yeah.
During that entire window.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be kind of foolish for them to come out and
Yeah.
do an inspection and be like, well, I don't know,
Yeah.
we'll come back again. later."
Only until-
I know in our septic field, we had to have them come in, because we were gonna encroach on wetland.
Oh, okay.
And the engineer spotted that, and Tina spotted it, but we had to get it delineated.
Yeah.
And so we had to hire Erwin Dory,
Oh, wow, okay.
wetland specialist. She came in and delineated it. And Tina came back at one point to check on the progress of things. And I'm sure looked at the delineation, said, yeah, that looks about right.
And that's, I think consistent with what Tina said, because, the state doesn't have the resources to just do all of that delineation for
Yeah.
everybody, so you have to hire if you need to like delineate the wetlands, then you hire somebody to do it. And then you bring them back.
Yeah.
I suppose if Tina came, let's say we were putting a trail in, Tina came, checked it out. And then said, yeah, you're, impinging on this wetland here, and if we decided to reroute the trail wide enough that there was no way it was anywhere near, then I'm assuming that we wouldn't have to get anything delineated, because we can well clear it.
It's
But
the-
if you wanna get close enough to it, then you might need to get it delineated.
The delineation is a requirement for a permit. And like, so if we wanted to continue to use the Bass Trail but modify it, it's permittable, but we would have to get a permit. We'd have to get Dory or someone to delineate that wetland.
Yeah, I guess, although, I'm not sure if that's true if we are clearly 50 feet outside.
No, I'm saying.
Like
if
70
we-
feet.
if we
an
desire-
example of-
Yeah, just
Got it,
if we
yeah.
desire to stay on the Bass.
Oh,
Trail
sure.
And encroach. on-
Absolutely, yeah. I
She was saying we would have to get it delineated.
Right.
But a class 3 being not jurisdictional doesn't require a permit.
It doesn't, and basically, the takeaway was, these aren't regulated, we'd really appreciate if you, took care of them and avoided them, but it's not going to be something that requires a permit.
Yeah.
So, that's just something that we should keep in mind, especially as we wrap up the trail development parameters and the, rec section, just like the buffers and whatnot.
Yes.
So when Dory did the work. Remember that was 2022,
21, actually, or whatever, right around there.
she was also flagging wetlands in that case. I wonder,
The second round of work, yeah.
so she was doing a number of different,
Yeah, they came up with a map that showed, and then they did close up, I could dig it up. Detail on 5 parts of the trail routes and number those, and then you'll see the wetland there. And they measured up the area somehow, maybe on the. Using the
Interesting.
computer, but came up and said, yeah, this is under, up above or below the threshold.
Yep.
2,500 feet.
oh, yep.
Sound like we're pausing here. I don't know how the recording works, but I think you can pin our picture.
Oh,
Sorry, it gets to be the big one.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I think the recording may have us already, but.
You see owl working?
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, because otherwise
Yeah.
the video might just have Dan Wilson's name for the whole meeting, so this is a little nicer, thank you for pointing that out. I'm assuming, does anyone have any other thoughts on wetlands? We are at.
Thanks for doing the work.
Yeah,
I'll just add one thing. We walked with Tina to the northern end of Urbanic Way where it ties into the old Bass Trail, which is damp. She was trying to figure out, is it a class 2, is it a class 3? And she goes, well, maybe we could study it at some point, but then we said, the bulk of the traffic continues on the utility road and then goes west on the utility road. So that section of Bass doesn't really see that much traffic right now.
Yeah.
So she seemed to be kind of okay with that, and trying to monitor it, and it was pretty dry when we walked it, so.
Yeah, and then.
She also, mentioned it was all basically human caused, like there was no like shelf there or anything that was holding the water.
Right.
Basically, she said, I just think there's been enough traffic through here that it's just.
Compaction of vehicles as much as anything.
Yeah,
utility and farm vehicles and
Yeah.
skidders.
Yeah.
But she didn't say stop, do something else, she just
Mhm.
I
said,
think it'll probably not be an official trail, but people can still use
Walk
it. I mean, I think I see people ski it in the
Yep.
winter, you know, so it creates a nice little loop for the cross country skiers,
Yeah.
but. I think in other seasons, it gets kind of overgrown, we don't need to really like brush hog or like
Right.
mow it that far.
yep. So then we walked back, it was worthwhile,
And that is the Bass Trail there, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, next item is the ACFC boundary discrepancies,
Yeah.
which were pointed out by Ian and Wright. I can't remember who started that thread. But, yeah, I figured because it came up, just so everyone's aware, we should talk about it, for a few minutes and figure out how we wanna proceed with that, because, the, the official ACF map, and the Richmond town map are different.
Mhm.
And included was, you know, I had a document with the, just sort of like the takeaways from an email thread, with a few of us and the map. And you can see, if you guys have that pulled up, I don't know if we know how to do this, if I should pull it up and share it on the screen as well. For the recording.
We can get it, see the thing.
Yeah, for the.
I'm thinking more of
For
like
the recording.
people at home, if anyone's watching this. I don't know what it's gonna be.
Yeah, dispute with Proco, eh?
Hughes?
You gonna take us to court?
Hughes
right?
will-
Not soon, no.
Okay, depends on how this meeting goes.
Yeah. Yeah. On the ground, it's very clear.
Is it?
Yeah, there's survey pins,
Okay.
that were,
I go to our meeting, I think, Sam, and there's.
so today we walked the, where'd it go?
I had a minute ago.
We started at the parking lot and walked the black line. Starting at the parking lot all the way to the northern point.
The nub.
Yep, and
The black.
yeah, the northern black point.
Yeah.
And we bumped into, there's the boundary line with, it starts out with Maplewood, yeah. Up until you get just beyond the meadows. And then it becomes VYCC.
Yeah.
And then there is a survey pin with, Maplewind and Andrews and VYCC.
Ah,
That was installed maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
okay.
And then there's, and there are they're red blaze, so you can follow the lines. And then you eventually bumped into Proco and Andrews and VYCC. Survey pin, steel stake beside it. And then it goes, it's quite steep between Andrews and Proco.
Yeah.
I was suggesting that we not walk that, and Sam insisted on it. And we did, you go up over a knoll and then it's a cliff back down to Sunshine.
Okay.
There's a pin there.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the very northern point. And then we walk southwest to another pin, which that's the one you see when you're at the top of Sip of Sunshine.
Yeah.
There's a survey pin there.
Okay.
And then if you walk southwest further, cutting across that box that you can see.
Yeah.
There's another survey pin. And then there are 2 more to the north.
But just on track, are you saying, are the pins on the red line or the black line?
They're on the black, they're all on the black
They're on
line.
black.
The red line is where the listers, GIS contractors
Yeah.
are trying to mush everybody's surveys together so that they can have a survey or have a map of the town.
Yeah, right.
So my suggestion at some point is that one of us share this with the listers and say the black line is correct,
Yeah.
the red line is not.
So wait, so the red line is the current
That's a tax map.
That's what the tax map is
So
depicting.
basically, you're being taxed on a significant
Yeah,
stretch of property there. That's, how many acres do you reckon that is? That's gotta be.
I don't think it'll,
70
affect- I don't
acres.
think it will affect the tax bill.
Well, nothing ever does, right?
Well, we know, we, this,
It only goes up.
we.
It's not gonna go down.
The listeners are using what's on the survey, the number of acres on the survey.
right.
So it's just going to, it's just gonna change the line.
Do you think the number of acres is correct?
We think the number of acres on our survey is correct.
Okay,
VYC, excuse me, BLT thinks the number of acres on Andrews is correct because Andrews has never been surveyed except for the eastern boundary with Maplewood.
The neighbors.
yeah.
The neighbors have, the Kellys have, and Sunshine has,
Yeah. makes sense.
Jay's property. I don't know Jay's last name.
McCormick.
Jay McCormick's, he's got a old John Marsh survey. Elko survey, so based on those surveys.
To generate this map, did you guys walk like right along the?
Well, this,
Black one.
well, this isn't the map generated from today. We basically used a map and we walked all the red glazed trees. And compared it at certain points, basically when we're hitting pins at certain key points, we were checking the map to see where we were, where our GPS location was. And it, you know, it follows the black line.
Yeah, we're on the
Wright
black.
has a tax map on his phone. I had GPS on mine, and you could see the discrepancy right there.
This
You know, when we
is
hold it
the
right
town survey map, right?
Yeah, so
Right.
that's incorrect.
Right, so this is the.
That's the
red-
correct, that's the correct.
Well,
No,
this is the red line, this matches up to the red line.
that's the tax map.
Oh, that's the tax map. I stand correct. Yeah,
The shapes are very close, but
Right.
slightly different.
right.
Yeah,
Don't navigate by that.
yeah, so that's from the tax map.
That's the tax map, right?
And the, I made that red line and I got it from the tax map. I
Yeah,
thought, well,
right.
I better just check and make sure it's the most recent. So that is the tax map as of 10 days or 2 weeks.
Right.
ago. That's the current one. And then, so my question is, if the two of you were following the map on the phone, did you record what you were walked? Okay.
Sam,
Yes,
You have an approximate GPS.
Right.
I do. It is approximate, but it's, I can,
And it's.
I don't know, I can email it to you guys or something.
I mean, not if, it might be useful, if we send this to the lister, it might be useful to say, well, we have, we walked this and we
Right.
got these approximate
Yeah.
coordinates.
I don't know, I just did it using like my Apple Watch, so I had a picture, I might be able to create a map, I don't know if it's like geo locked or whatever, so I'm not sure if you could take that and then put it on another map and have it map the actual trail, you just kind of have to look at each. And you can see the general shape matches the black line. But this is kind of more, I guess, for our benefit to just, verify facts on the ground, we're not surveyors and, so I don't.
Well, it's very good to have this level of confidence that the black line is correct.
Correct. Yep, it is.
Yes.
Yep, it is.
Because we've never really been sure of that.
Yeah.
It seems like the evidence from today is.
I marked some of the pin locations in there. Right on that.
Oh,
line.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, that looks like the map.
Yeah.
So that said, next steps. What do we wanna do? Does anyone want to talk to the town listers? To bring this up?
If I'm considered not to be in a conflict, I'm happy to, because it should represent the black line.
Yeah, I mean, in this case.
I think because you're in conflict, it should go to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's nothing gained here, because on the ground,
Yeah.
it's very clear where
The
the
mark.
surveyed lines and
Yeah.
pins are.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And if anything, you're losing lands based on the map. and
Yeah, but
you'd
we're not losing.
Well, I know, but
Correct.
basically it'd be more of a conflict if you were saying, oh, well,
Gaining.
there's a lot more,
Right.
like this is my land, not, town
Right.
land, it's the reverse. We're basically saying, we want the ACF land to go further into Prelco.
Right.
And it's obviously not gonna change the, the numbers, this is just like the map
Right.
itself.
Can
So-
you go down to the southwest corner, because there's another error.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yes. This
So-
one, Sorry, there we go. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, so that's another conversation with the listers, because,
Little panhandle there?
yeah, for the longest time, they had Adam Wood as the owner of all of Andrews. And it was just a clerical error on the map, and
Is that
so,
like he's I'm on the select board and.
right. So I got them to fix it, except there's an error. They have now the town owning the western wedge, and we don't own that. The black line is correct there too. So I need to visit, we should visit with the listers and say, can you fix that western wedge and go to Adam, or I think it's in his wife's name, whoever's name it's in. It's not us.
There's Ward, Dyer, and
Because
Parenti.
when that ownership thing was fixed. Making it clear that it's not Adam Wood who owns the whole forest.
Right.
That's when that funny spike over to that one side.
Right.
You know, they sort of half fixed the problem.
Right, well, and I was talking to Linda, the town clerk, who was talking to the contract listers, and I think we need to skip that intermediate step, perhaps. So if it's the pleasure of the group, I'll,
That would be helpful.
Yeah, the only thing I'm curious about is, are we empowered to do this? As I don't wanna step outside of our authority. Is this something that we need to double check with the select board on and just let them know or ask them? I mean,
I think it would, I would suggest, that's a good idea. I think Josh is we don't need to go to the select board.
Yeah.
I think we just visit
we can
Josh.
ask, okay, we can ask Josh.
Yeah.
Okay,
'Cause-
well, do you wanna reach out to Josh?
I'd be
and
happy to.
CC Brad and myself?
Yep,
as
I'd be happy
co-chairs,
to.
And then,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all understand what's going on here and trust you to.
Yep, happy
represent
to do that.
everybody. Is anyone else interested in being a part of that conversation?
No, but I would add that I think anybody can raise a discrepancy in maps, and I don't see why the select
Right.
would be bothered by it.
No,
Yeah.
we're trying to
Right.
do good work here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say that there were 3 property owners impacted by the southwest?
Depending
Corner.
on where they think their property is, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so it looks like, I mean, it does involve, Adam Wood, Mike and Jen Kelly.
Matt Dyer, it looks like.
This one looks about right on, this is
I
less.
don't think it
less
affects
than-
Matt,
No,
I don't
because
know if
that's
it's Matt.
his,
This
whoops,
This is Jay.
that's that piece right there. I think that's the back of Matt's line,
Fair, okay.
I think.
Okay, yeah.
but we can check.
Yeah, so it does affect a few, a lot of these, it seems like it's kind of a net zero with the Kellys. I
Right.
mean, it's giving, quote unquote, giving, and to Adam, and then less is.
These are pretty good in this area.
Yeah, and then with Jay's, it looks like, it's basically just giving land,
Right.
not taking, and then it's taking from Proco, which, we've got the owner right here, so. And then the rest is
It's not a
all.
survey, right? It's just representative.
Right.
Yes, exactly, it's just the line on the map, it's not the actual survey
Right.
or,
Yeah.
going to change anyone's taxes or the number of acres that they own.
Right,
It's just to make sure the
Right.
map looks correct, which is helpful when you're
right,
I think.
on the ground, and I use maps like this when I'm hiking around. like,
right, I do too,
Nice to know.
right,
Yeah, you don't want to navigate by the red.
No, definitely not.
right.
Tough situation.
Cool, we good on that then?
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Great, well, we are still, exactly on time.
But it was a nice walk, it really was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
It's nice.
This is great work. This map is great work.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And,
Yeah, it clarifies.
Mm-hmm.
okay, so, back into our favorite topic, revisions of the management plan.
Right.
Where, you mentioned we're exactly on time.
Yes, we are exactly on time. Which is great, so I guess I'm gonna do what I normally do, I guess I gotta join the meeting now, with my computer. Cause I think, cause I have the live edit version.
Yeah.
So if we give me 1 second. And join.
You know, Bitly.
That, should be muted.
How big the other meadow is.
Oh, we were saying today, it's really big.
Dude, I mean, the one we were in.
Yeah, it was-
Monsters. and
Right,
that thing is-
yeah, it's. And my hope is they'll put livestock back, something to mow it, cause it's a big meadow.
Right, volunteered you two guys. to mow that, or-
We'll report back in 2 weeks.
Push mower.
Is it possible
Give me
for,
a half a turkey if you do that.
for a person to get dangerously lost back there? Or are there enough trails? Yeah,
Go down.
No, no, just,
too many trails.
yeah, just walk downhill and you're gonna be bumping Route 2. It's up-
Yeah.
You can hear the highway.
Right,
Oh, good.
yeah, and there are a bunch of trails, logging trails and walking trails, and
Stream.
Yeah.
the Vast Trail is very prominent.
Have you headed over towards UICC and kind of done that
Not like I should.
tour? Yeah,
No,
that's
not
really
yet.
cool.
I walked it, it's great.
Yeah.
The new trails, yeah, they're great,
And the old trails in UICC are
yeah.
really cool.
Okay, was that too small for people? Let's see if I can get this bigger. Seems like a lot of wasted space on the screen. Let's do it this way. I don't know if it's gonna work out. Weird, no, whoops, sorry, perfect. Cool. So going back to where we left off, there were a few things, I know we've been trying to, stick with. We're trying to stick with the, only doing edits underneath the line, which is a little further down, but we had a few things that people had a little homework for, plus we finally met with Tina and talked about the wetland stuff, so my suggestion would be we revisit wetlands first and see if we can't hammer this out, and then we can turn it black and, move on, and then we can visit the two sections that, Dan and Brad may or may not have done a little extra research on, and then we can go back to below the line.
That's real quick. Okay.
Cool, so. I guess, we can just remove some of the stuff right off the bat. I don't know why I lost my edit bar, so hopefully that doesn't become too problematic. But. The main thing that occurs to me, avoid trail development within 50 feet of wetlands to protect water quality.
It's a little confusing. Is it 50 or 300?
Yeah, yeah, the question is, why are we protecting the wetlands? We have to do at least 50 because that's like a water quality thing.
Yeah.
And then like the secondary question is, are we trying to buffer it more than that? For, other reasons like protecting wildlife, and so, yeah, habitat protection. So that's for us to decide, I guess, right now, and then also, are we doing this just for class 2? Are we also going to include class 3? And are we going to give them different treatment?
So the natural communities, Brad. That's why we put that word in there, right? It was,
Yeah,
wetland natural communities were sort of. Recognized as capitalized, they're on the map, they're require extra. care,
for the
right?
habitat values.
So the
you know,
habitat,
visiting,
not just,
visiting wildlife,
not just water quality,
not just the
also,
frogs, you know.
right?
And salamanders. I would think on class 3. We could get away with less, telling the truth, you know, because they're smaller.
Say 50?
I mean, you know, yeah, what did, I think the state wants 25, but maybe double.
Yeah, Tina said we didn't have to protect them at all, really, but we should care about them. So if we did 50, which is the buffer for class 2, like to me, that seems like plenty.
I
And
guess,
then for class 2, I don't know if, you know, if we want or need the full 300.
yeah,
And then I also remind folks about if we want to consider, you know, maybe if this isn't the place for it, but a reroute versus, you know, a new trail, right? Because if we're specifically thinking about that stretch of vast near the class 2 wetlands, that is technically going to be a reroute. And so maybe somewhere else in here, we want to add language that addresses that, because what we might end up doing here is in trying to do the right thing and rerouting traffic off vast to preserve the vast trail and, you know, have a better experience for users who are going to use that stretch of trail, end up shooting ourselves in the foot with the trail development parameters and disallowing ourselves from being able to put something
well,
there.
haven't we, I think we've already, I think with Jim's great language, right? And the first action. Promote rec use on existing trails, limit the creation of new trails.
Are you looking at?
Except that, yeah, this is backing way up to the first page of B6.
It may be just something that we want to put into the like trail development parameters. Or the or like the whatever it was, the deviation process, because we could just put the language there and say. This applies to, you know, new trails that aren't reroutes
Oh, I
or
see.
something, you know, something along
Yeah,
those
it's
lines.
the bypass wet steep ecological intensity. Of existence, unsuitable stretches of existing trails
Mhm.
as in like an exception to that. You know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're aware that we could, you know, that could be a snag that we hit if we write
Yeah.
all this out and then.
There's a lot of people are gonna just look at whatever.
Yes,
Could we-
exactly.
Could we lean into the like, you know, ecologist? To, yeah, sort of reckon that, because when I asked Tina about the difference between water quality concerns and, the wildlife. Her instinct was, well, I wonder what's in there. I wonder what.
It's not what's in there, it's what comes, you know, goes there to hunt.
Maybe she didn't say it that way, but
Oh,
you
okay.
know what I mean, like what is the,
Ah,
you know, and maybe in her mind, she was thinking like, are we talking about a class 3 where there's. You know, frogs and salamanders and such, or is it like ducks or land animals, you know?
moose. And-
Yes, right,
Yeah.
bigger, yeah, so maybe we could lean into the ecologist. Any trail that is, you know, proposed, flagged, laid out, an ecologist is gonna look at things. Maybe they could confirm that the buffer is adequate for wildlife,
Good.
you know?
I don't know why it would be different though, you know, than say the buffer we put around the dry oak or. You know, bobcat denning area or something like that, you know, I would cut into it.
You
If,
feel like a class 2, like the class 2 where the bass trail is, that's. That's the type of wetland that you're envisioning would
I
have a
would think
big
there's
buffer, right?
I can't talk, specific type. To that wetland, you know, it would be, I didn't bring the book, I could look it up, but, you know, it's.
I mean, I think that is,
There's like alder swamp is one topic. It's even noted on somebody's map, there's an alder swamp somewhere in Forest. In the west area, but there's probably a name for that type of wetland. And, you know, particular species that lose it, that don't just live there. So you want to try to protect its viability for that, you know, so like in the spring, those are the first areas along the screens. That, because they're a little warmer because of the water, that have green growth, so that's important for the. You know, bears coming out of hibernation, year round hunting, I'm sure if you, bobcats, fisher. Fox, whatever.
Could we,
Owls.
oh, so, yeah, I know, I wonder if. Using the state class 2 buffer guidelines, but adding. Seasonal closures, would
Here's,
that be adequate?
maybe, here's the thing. To my knowledge, the only wetland we're talking about is the one that we visited with Tina. Right, and there's already, yeah, so far, and
On the vast.
yeah.
On the line.
And so, yeah, I guess there's one other spot that could be a class 2, that I'm thinking of, it's north,
Grandfather then?
I guess, well, I'm just thinking, like, you know, we walked that today and there were pretty deep bike ruts there, you know, there's traffic now from Maple Wind, and that is an existing, you know, that's an existing trail that's getting used. You know, fairly frequently already, so I think we need to be reasonable about that, and that we're specifically focusing on this one wetland. And that, you know, we didn't list out anything that doesn't exist in the forest, right? We didn't put, you know, I don't know, let's think of some other, you know, we didn't put like this, you know, silver maple ostrich fern forest. In this, because like that's down by the riverside, that's the River Shore Trail, that's not happening in ACF, so. It makes me wonder, I mean, I think we should have a wetland section, because we definitely have class 3, and we do have 1, maybe 2 class 2, but I just want to point out that. You know, if the guidance we're writing is specifically for this one spot that's already grandfathered. Is it worth putting in extensive language to say we need to like buffer it out when we already know there's a grandfathered trail there that we may be considering a reroute for? I don't know, just something to throw out there, just for
Because-
perspective.
Cause something like the alder swamp, that is captured in the natural. Communities thing, right? We have a buffer associated with a natural community,
We probably would get,
right?
it hasn't come up because there's
Yeah, I guess it,
no trail over there. Like this one,
But didn't we have language about, special
yeah,
natural communities having a large, what's it, 300? Foot buffer?
I guess
Those,
we did, I don't think we, yeah, I guess there's no like catch-all, you know, in this, that we haven't written anything that said like, well, it's not listed. And it's, you know, we deemed it as a special natural community that we need to stay 300 feet clear of the Elder Swamp. I suppose that's a good point, the Elder Swamp would be a wetland that we should consider. I don't know if that would be considered class 2 or class 3,
Yeah.
probably, it's pretty small, so probably a class 3.
it's surprising on that map, what, 2,500.
Yes,
Looks small, I was surprised.
yeah.
But anyway, whatever,
So all that to say, I just wanted to point out that, you know, we should address this, you know, in some way, but I just, you know, I think it's worth noting that. We might spend a lot of time working on this section,
well, parameters are for new trail, right?
yes,
And we have an action that says promote rec use on existing trails and skid roads.
yes,
And limit creation of new, except as, and I think that applies to existing trails. Needed to bypass wet, steep, ecologically sensitive or otherwise uncivil stretches. So I think Jim came up with that. And so that kind of, I think, would allow us to do a bypass without the 300, because the 300 would only apply, say, for new things, and then we have that deviation exception, and then, you know,
maybe it's worth
we could
mentioning.
fudge
In
that a little.
the exception, so, yeah, in the deviation process, if we keep it. Yeah, I'm okay with that,
Limit the creation of new tree. Well. Yeah, I don't know, I think that's. Cause I see what you're saying, to put a 300-foot buffer around that whole thing. It's grandfather, you know?
yeah, it's grandfathered and it's around the edge too, right, so much of it is all just outside of ACF anyway, that's all Maple Wind's land. And the only side of that wetland that is even relevant to ACF is the section that literally has a road like 10 feet from the wetland.
Right.
So,
I'm gonna correct you. That's part of V.
oh, yes.
So that whole wetland is Andrews. For some,
Okay,
It is?
yeah, there's, where it goes through that wet area, there's a V right there.
Down here? This little.
Right,
notch?
yeah, that, and for, I don't know
Yes,
the
that's
reason,
it, yeah.
yeah, I don't know the
Well, part of
reason
it.
why that is
part of it.
Andrews versus Maplewind, but it's Andrews.
Isn't this Maplewood?
Yes, but-
Yeah, half, it looks like half is Maplewood and half is.
See the V that goes down?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is, right there is Andrews.
right.
But then the western side.
The western side is not.
I guess the green, but the green is the trail, right? It's not the.
Yeah, light green.
So
line.
the green is all in Andrews.
Oh, I see.
My point is
It's not
that-
that the wetland in Andrews, the trail is.
Yeah.
Is in Andrews.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that most of the, like, the buffering that we would be doing, or all the buffering that we would be doing is all north of those wetlands.
Yes,
I guess technically there's a little sliver to the east, but
Right.
it'd be silly to put anything there.
right.
Yeah, so my point is, we have the wetlands, where we'd be only buffering north, and right along the edge of that entire set of wetlands, we already have a trail, you know, a wide trail that gets used by heavy vehicles on occasion and is getting used by bikes frequently, so, yeah, I mean, that's just,
But so, go ahead.
So I'm gonna nudge us. Are we okay with the first sentence, first bullet, or does it need to be modified?
I continue to not understand if we're talking about 50 feet or 300 feet.
Okay, so-
Yeah, it's sort of,
I was just trying to bring us back
Yeah,
in.
yeah, and I appreciate that.
so it's sort
I
of,
mean, there's two numbers there, and there's the 50 feet, which is, I guess is coming from state policy for wetlands.
Yeah.
And then there's the 300 feet, which is just recognizing that there's a habitat that is associated with the wetland. I think it is worth remembering that we're, as I understand it, we're kind of flying a little blind here in the sense that the easement identifies three kinds of protection zones, those being the natural communities, I think the vernal pools and the riparian ones, riparian protection zones. But there's actually, I don't think there's anything in the easement about wetlands, so it seems we're kind of making up our own, we don't have we have the guidance of the state for the 50,
right,
but the 300 and then the class 3 buffer question mark 100 feet. These are numbers that we,
Right.
understand are important, but we don't have official guidance on them. Is that
Well-
correct?
we have as much guidance as we have on any of the 300, you know, the knot and stuff. You know, zones of influence, that's the guidance on that. And then trying to, comply with the easement requirements of protecting stuff.
Yeah, but you're right, Ian, that the easement does not give a lot of guidance. It does mention wetlands in the same sentence as riparian buffers and everything else, but it doesn't give feet or any kind of protections. And
Does it lump those together, repairing their wetlands?
it says, 1A1 says, to conserve productive forest land, habitats, biological diversity, natural communities, riparian buffers, wetlands, soil productivity, water quality.
What about the piece? That's what I wanted to say.
Let's see,
So it seems that for wetlands, we got some guidance from the riparian zones and from the vernal pool zones. They specify numbers in the easement. So we're kind of using those provisions as a guide here.
yeah.
For wetlands. We're introducing a new category, I think, of protected zones, which don't exist in the easement.
That's
So
right.
they should exist in the management plan.
Yeah, no, you're right, and there's no mention of wetlands in the EPZ section, Brad, you read about
No.
that? Yeah,
So EPCs are riparian buffer doesn't say anything about it, right?
No mention. In
Part of the
the
streams.
you get in the easement, in the EPZ segment,
mention in the
section 6.
EPZ.
Mhm.
Easy,
So that's an add-on.
about. ones, and then they,
Well, oh, wait a minute.
they are mentioned in the context of, what was that you were listening, where was that?
Yeah, that was in, context of
Wetlands are in riparian.
one
so-
A one. So in the first provision, it mentions 1A1A.
So is it just covered, are we saying it's covered by the riparian
Well,
section above?
well, hang on, here's the deal.
Cause the biggest buffer we put on perennial streams is 100 feet. You know, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, we just use the same type of logic for wetlands and we just say. Buffer requirements for class 2 and class 3 wetlands is 100 feet and 50 feet. And that we're trying to avoid any development within, which would mean it would not trigger a permit, which is great for us, because that just is easier, but also it's, you know, just doing the right thing, and trying to provide some space there. And that's going above and beyond like the state, you know, the state requirements. And also is going to help us try to route around wetlands, where if we're doing any trail development, we butt into some wetlands. And it's also not, I don't know, creating something out of, I don't know, a lot of the other things that we have in here in the development parameters are specifically because, you know, they're called out in the easement. And so we're not, therefore, we're not like creating new categories for ourselves that.
Are you the communicators camp? No.
No, it's like. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts there, is that I think we could just maybe steal, you know. This logic and just apply it to wetlands for class 2 to class 3.
But why, why would 100 do the job? I mean, why is a wetland different than a mass?
Well, you're saying the wetland is basically similar to the riparian, and this is the riparian,
No.
literally the riparian.
No, I'm not, no, under riparian is weird. It's specifically on either side of either side of streams, but then when it says. The benefits of doing that are buffering aquatic and wetland plants, preventing wetland and water quality degradation, providing important plant and animal habitat, providing organic matter nutrients to aquatic systems. They bring it in, but it is specifically on streams. So there is VYC or VLT hasn't specifically addressed wetlands, but we're saying that wetlands being, you know, a whole very important habitat type, natural community type. Should deserve the same kind of protection that other.
Are we repeating ourselves though? Are we doubling up? If we already say 300 feet, a buffer zone around habitat connectors, are we not just saying the same thing again in a different section?
Oh, you're referring to like the top of the section?
Yeah. Yeah, if we're already saying 300, I mean, like, let's, you know, I'm always into like keep things in their place and repeat as little as often as little as possible.
Protection.
And so let's keep everything in its right place. And
Yeah.
if we wanna, if for some reason some wetland is not a connector, then we just keep it with the 50 feet.
Well, we're protecting natural communities too, not habitat connectors. There's
And,
two separate.
and where's the natural community section in the document?
Well, these are all kind of natural communities, you know, like we have there's the sensitive natural community section that talks about, you know, oak, white pine and,
Yeah.
you know.
As the
red
headmark
pine.
section.
So,
Winter.
yeah, I thought when we had met in our working group, we thought about, like, you were worried. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those, you know, the alder swamp and the wetlands associated with the vernal pools and the real, like, the ones on the map. That those really needed a bigger buffer. That was kind of how I understood your thoughts on that.
A bit bigger than. the
Like a
state.
300, like a
Bigger than the
300,
state.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the state
Bigger than
is
the
just worried
state.
about
Right,
keeping
water.
dirt, keeping sediment erosion.
Right, but you were really specifically talking about those, you know, those mapped spaces. Not
Yeah.
necessarily, you know, a class 3 that
Was discovered.
was discovered.
But what, those particularly, you mean like the alder swamp and, I only named that, that's the only one they've really named, you,
Oh, yeah,
as
Okay.
far as I know.
What is, I mean,
I guess so Ken, and I think this is what Julian is saying, is that a 300-foot buffer would apply to a sensitive natural community, which should include some of these spaces like the Aldershot
Yes,
that you're concerned about.
right.
And so we don't need to call that out in the wetland section. Because those are sensitive natural communities.
Yeah. We don't have to list Alder Swamp as a separate thing, you mean?
Know that the buffer for wetlands could be something different than 300 feet. And yet those, like the Alder Swamp, again, would still have a 300-foot buffer.
Because.
So should we list the alder swamp in that list I just saw?
I
You
don't
would-
think so.
Sensitive natural communities.
Because we're not listing the other.
Right, because there's more than just, the Alder Swamp is the biggest, but there's other ones on the map.
Oh, okay, all right.
And so we can list them all. If we list them all, then if we discover a new one, we didn't mention in the management
Like
plan.
Alder is this little white thing there,
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Oh,
so it's,
all right.
that's not that big.
I got
Which
you.
one? This little yellow,
Oh, yeah.
others are the blues, pretty much, right?
I feel like we could just, just listing it by class two and class three is the easiest way to address it, rather than, exhaustively looking at all the different like wetlands types.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, if we think we're covered, with reroutes, then we could say. We could use the same 300-foot buffer for class two, and then, I don't know, considering, I guess I don't know. What the science is on the class three, now that we know that the state doesn't care, like, there's no they care, but they don't require permitting or anything, we might wanna protect it, but I really don't know. We chose 50-foot and 100-foot buffers for streams. I don't know if a class three wetland is deserving of a 300-foot buffer, that seems
Right.
like a lot to me.
So I wondered that myself, so I asked a wildlife biologist that
Oh,
very question yesterday. John Carter.
Oh, yeah, what did he say?
Yeah, because I said, wouldn't there be an argument that the importance is commensurate with the size of the wetland?
Okay,
If you have
Say that again.
if it's, the importance would be
Commensurate
commensurate.
with the size.
Is there a lot, there is a logic to that, now whether that's accurate or not. And he kind of agreed, but he also pointed out, he said, sometimes those little guys are important, like in times of drought. When water is scarce, then every possible source of water is important. But let me give you his exact,
okay.
so you can.
It seemed.
He said-
This is important because we may have to defend these numbers at some point.
Yeah, right.
What's in the easement, that's easy, if somebody questions 50 feet, that's in the easement, we've got to do it. But if this 300 number, somebody might say, well, what's this 300, you just pull it out, then what's the evidence for it? Well, should we be documenting that in the management?
Yeah.
Say 300, because it's stated
Right.
somewhere.
Which is in the appendix.
Yeah, I think it would apply, it would be the same logic that we used for, the other natural communities that are in the easement and things like, broken ledge and talus. We're using the, like the Naughton number of 300. The question is. Do the wetlands apply for the same level of protection as these other things? Because we obviously use the different number for like streams, for example. Streams we want to avoid if we can, and we'd like to steer clear by 50 to 100 feet if possible. Of course, the occasional trail may go over a stream and we'll build a bridge for that if necessary. But we didn't need to apply the 300-foot buffer to that because that's just kind of, it's just unnecessary. And so the question here is, do the wetlands apply, deserve the same level of protection, I suppose, as like these other natural communities that we're buffering by 300 feet?
Well, I think it's easy to make that case the way they do. They get a whole separate section in wetland, wildland. Well, it's in the title, wetland, wildlands, and woodland.
Sure, yeah.
So John said, I don't know enough about ANR's wetland size criteria to provide substantive advice, but the bigger the buffer, the better. I agree, I agree that value would generally track with size. It also depends on distance to other wetlands and the species that might use them and their abilities to move. This year with the drought, even tiny wetlands have much greater importance. Sure. that makes sense too, but he said generally. He says it would track the size. I would think we could. Relax a bit on those three, class threes.
Yeah, so what was your suggestion? It's like,
Go to 100 or 50.
50 it is.
I think 50 is fine I think 50 is fine. for
It's
class
double,
three.
So moved.
it's double the state,
Right.
Yeah, and then do we wanna say,
I think.
but then, yeah, so then the real question that was on this class two, are we doing 300 or are we gonna do double the state again? You know, do like 100, you know? Or are we gonna say 300, knowing it's really only applying to one or two places that are. Either has a grandfather trail or the other section, which is not likely to see much trail development, the place that I'm thinking of.
But if it's grandfather, it's irrelevant.
Well, I suppose, yeah, I mean, we need to make sure, you know, that we're covered there. Like I said, otherwise we're just kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. It's like, oh, we wrote all these great. Didn't consider like reroutes for grandfather trails, and now all of a sudden we have no way to maneuver. But I would be willing, just for the sake of moving on, to say, let's say, you know, class 3, 50 feet, class 2. Even if we call it the 300 and move on, and like, I would reread this whole section and make sure that there's, you know. That we do have an allowance for the reroutes and make sure that it does actually seem.
Should be something.
Yeah, like we can do that without a contradicting itself.
Yeah.
So the saying the proposal then, it's, you're saying,
I was saying class 3, 50 feet.
yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, I guess I could go either way on the distance for the two. I just said 300 feet. Because the one place where there's the 300 foot. The one place where there's the 300 foot buffer is kind of irrelevant because it would be a reroute and it's grandfathered anyway. So like, we're kind of talking about nothing, you know, it kind of doesn't matter here because like.
It does matter though, I mean, there's all the stuff on the eastern side, you know, these three guys.
Those are vernal pools too, so those get 600 feet.
Those are Procos.
That's the one I'm thinking of, Julian, yes.
This guy,
That's the one where, yeah, I don't necessarily, like, that's the other one that I think might be a class 2. I guess I didn't know that these would be. But again, this is a trail, so this is also grandfathered.
Yeah.
You know, so, and the trail goes there, to BYCC.
Yeah.
So like all this stuff here, so this is the one that's not grandfathered, so that would be the one that would be affected, by, you know, by this buffering.
That's that old beaver.
Yeah, suspected, it's the one that we visited with
Yeah,
Brandon
right.
Benedict, in the winter.
It's got kind of a dam at the end.
Kinda, yeah, it's like,
Maybe they'll come back. If not,
Yeah.
if we're not plugging them.
it's kind of like, yeah, it's not like it's too swampy in there, it's like, feels like more like just a stream than like a wetlands, but it looks like a former wetland. That I suppose could become a wetland again if, you know, beaver moved in or something. So I don't know,
so, I mean, twice the state seems pretty ample, so 50 on three.
It feels it.
Would
but
be
it goes
100
against-
on twos, correct?
Yeah, it
That's
feels it.
what double would be.
The states. I don't think that's how we ought to say it, it's a multiple of the state.
But you just said you were comfortable with 50.
Yeah, but, on threes, yeah.
Right.
And on class twos, though, I think we ought to go 300. Because they're full-fledged, important natural communities.
So what are you proposing for twos?
Twos,
50.
300 twos, and 50 on threes,
Oh,
smaller.
I'm sorry.
And there's more of those, so, you know, it's more land
Let me ask something on
available that way.
the grandfather, are you saying there's the grandfather? I mean, there's not a grandfather clause per se, but you're saying because trails are existing, there's no automatically grandfather?
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
There's an action item to that point, and then Sam's gonna work that into parameters for anyone who misses the action item.
it? Which says that the,
Stay 300 feet away from wetlands,
no, but the,
unless it's existing trail.
I see, that doesn't, that's not currently in there, correct?
It's It's not in the red text, but it's in the first action item way up above. On the first page of B6. I think it's the first
And
action.
promote recreational use on existing
Yeah.
trails and limit the creation of new trails. It does not say that existing trails are exempt from what's in the document.
We'll keep going, except for, see the exception. So if we have to.
So I'm suggesting, I know we still have to figure out this one thing, I'm suggesting here, that, can I move this, sorry.
And I don't see the grandfather, but maybe if it's in there, I'm sorry.
I think it was the first
So,
action item.
It's good.
Yeah, this one. Programming
Limit the creation of new
stuff
trails.
as needed to,
Yeah,
so
I
bypass
don't,
wet, steep ecological and.
I don't read that as a grandfather.
Well, that's what Sam was saying, that he wants to make sure that that.
yes, I think it's important that we address that, because, yeah, it's just something that we kind of overlooked, and that was something I was thinking about when we were having the chat with Tina, I was like, well.
Right.
If we put a big buffer here, it's like, yeah, it might be nice to put a trail 50 feet north of the vast trail, but we can't, you know, so. That was kind of a hole that got poked in, you know, this lovely plan we have here with our trail development parameters. So I think that it's necessary that somewhere in here we put that, and I think that the right place is. Maybe both the step-by-step process, and or the deviation process, where we'll say, you know, for a reroute. If it's an existing trail. I don't wanna say like you can do anything you want, but like, you know, I feel like there'd be a much more allowance, like if it's deemed the trail should be maintained, but not. And not closed down, because sometimes it might be like, well, this trail is just bad and it needs to be closed, right? But for a trail that serves some important function, like this one, which is always going to need to exist because of the right of way for Maple One Farm and or it's highly likely that it's a thoroughfare that if the choice is that it shouldn't be closed down, then you need to provide a way to access that same, you know, end to end with a reroute, even if it does go into territory that normally you wouldn't build a trail.
I follow that.
So I think we just need to spell
I
out.
just thought Brad was suggesting that we had already texted that out and I don't.
No, I didn't, that's a to-do, I would want it to be explicit, I don't want it to be like an implicit, oh, well, this bullet kind of says it, but I think it needs to be like written out explicitly, so we don't.
Yes.
Have problems in the future. So what I'm suggesting is that the highlighted text, we remove in entirety and we leave that top bullet point that I've just written.
Yeah.
Because I think much of this was just kind of our thoughts.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot to say here aside from we just need to mention the class 2 and 3s and how we're treating them slightly differently.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any issue with me deleting what's below? And we can figure out. We might just have to vote on, you know, what we want the class 2 buffer to be, because we can talk about this all in.
Yep.
Can I ask a question, Brad, about John?
Yeah,
Did he specify what he thought the number should be?
No.
Or you guys just talked it
That's
out?
all.
Cause
it's just a casual.
I mean, I'm just thinking about John, he walks nearly every day with his dog off leash
Over
on
here.
rails, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would guess he's not a proponent of a 300-foot wildlife buffer, would be my hunch. But maybe he's a person
Well,
we could run this by. and-
existing trails,
What's that?
existing trails, so he takes advantage of it, probably.
Yeah, so
But a new trail, he might say, you know, ideally, we should have.
is it worth putting that specific number to him and seeing if he?
I think ultimately it's up to us. I think it's just like these other ones that we chose the 300 for, you know, based on the science in the non report, like. This is our chance to put a number down, like we know what the state number is, we've gotten some guidance, we need to just decide on the number and move on, like,
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get an answer, like an exact answer. I think we just need to decide what we think is, you know, the responsible buffer for us to put.
For class two.
For class two, I think it seems like we're in agreement on the three, that 50 is fine, because that's twice the state buffer and, you know.
I move to establish 100-foot buffer,
Just 100.
For what?
100
For class,
for class two.
Is there a second? Because we're just gonna treat this like a motion, and a vote. Does someone second the 100-foot buffer?
Okey dokey.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Okay, do we need any discussion or have we already had?
So I think we do.
Yeah, all right, let's.
So I was kind of coming up with some compromise. We've got 300, we've got 100. Out of my hat, I'm thinking as a compromise, 200.
Is that a new motion or?
No, it's just it's a conversation
Yeah. Until someone officially.
until some, right, so it's not, the motion has been made. So that was my thought. As a compromise.
I'll just
Between-
say, then I would just say, why are we relaxing on a giant class of natural communities, not giant in the forest, but as far as, you know, general ecology goes, why we kind of arbitrarily just cut the 300 that we've, you know, is well documented. Both, you know, with all the reports that Meredith did, and 400 is what they like over in New Hampshire with their own bunch of reports to keep the viability of these things as natural communities. And also, I think the cost is to future trail development is minimal.
So I hear that, and I'm like, my reasoning would be that if you look at any of these potential wetlands or real wetlands on the map, and you draw a 300-foot buffer around it, that ends up being like a 15-acre, 17-acre stain on a map.
Stain.
Yeah.
I would.
I.
Lot.
It's a little harsh.
Lot.
Blot.
We're showing your underwear show.
Pick a word.
Huh?
What do you like? The word.
Area.
Okay, there. So, you know, 16-acre area on a chart. When you do the radius, it's
That's
absolutely-
wonderful. That's 16 acres for wildlife to continue flourishing
Yeah.
in a high priority forest.
Yeah.
Where if you look at VCD, you know, in the, what, I can't remember, if it's either priority, or high priority
It's
and
high
natural
priority.
communities.
Yes.
It's good, and
It is.
that reinforces that side of what we're obligated under the easement and town plan for that
No,
matter.
the easement does not.
Well,
obligate
we're not
to-
obligated by the town plan, the town has
Nor
an
does the
official
town plan.
policy. The easement what?
The easement doesn't obligate us to make those boundaries, neither does the town.
It says protect the part you were reading before, protect biodiversity,
That's
wetlands, all this stuff, right?
Yeah, it does not
And
say.
200 doesn't cut it, according to,
I don't think
the
it should say.
science.
I mean, I think Meredith Martin's, okay, I mean, we're gonna go back as usual.
all right,
So I'm gonna call a question.
Yeah.
well, I think we ought to talk about it. Don't
Okay.
you think? You don't wanna believe in
No, don't put words-
in
Don't put words in.
PhDs.
That's not what I'm saying. Do not put words in.
Okay, well, what were you gonna say about merit?
What I would say is that science is an excellent guide for this. It is not the only consideration when making policy. There are other considerations, including recreation and public access.
There is
And if
recreation.
we put in 300-foot boundaries all around the forest, and in all these communities, there will be no trails.
And we're not doing it. So that's,
Well, I mean, if you put in the boundaries that are currently in the plan as it stands, with 300-foot boundaries, there's no place for a trail.
that's not
If
true.
you look at Bob, what's his name's man, with 200-foot boundaries, there's hardly any place for a trail. You put in 300-foot boundaries, there will not be.
So
a trail.
maybe the existing trails are the way to go. Well, you're talking new trails.
Yeah, I'm talking about trails, right. So
So how-
if you, so
but
here's,
they're
here's,
aligned?
here's the other consideration. So science is absolutely a consideration. I'm a firm believer in science. Okay? I'm also a believer that that is not the only consideration. And if we go to select board and we say to them, The only thing that is allowed in this forest in terms of new trails is gonna be below the power lines, and there's already trails there, so there won't be any new trails in this forest. People are not gonna accept that, it's not gonna, that's not
What
gonna
is
go
the
well.
benefit, what to overcome the cost of degrading a potential really important natural, say around that beaver pond.
Yeah.
Right, or future beaver pond, or past, whatever, that wetland, what is the great gain of letting a trail go through there when we have 100 miles, plenty of trails elsewhere?
Yeah.
Why do we have to take out that potential?
Yeah.
And degrade a high
Why-
priority forest?
Why do trails degrade? In
Because
that
activity,
space?
people,
That's right. I think
critters run.
What's
So
that?
critters, it disturbs critters, it stresses them out, it costs them energy. I know, read the stuff.
I do, I do, and
I know.
the stuff
Why
I've
do you-
read, like the Caterpillar study in Quebec, like. I don't see. I don't see net negative. I see very specific instances where you can say there's impact, there's, in some cases, negative impact to a very specific species. But I'm not seeing net negative. And I know on our trails, I'm definitely not seeing net negative. And I'm still seeing the critters that you're hoping to protect, they're still there. They're coexisting. So I don't know, I feel like a trail can be so amazing for a community and could be so amazing for this town forest, this public town-owned land.
We have a lot of trails.
What's that?
We have a lot of trails. Do we need this trail? Do we need that
Well, that's,
trail?
yeah, that's a
to-
great conversation to have, but in the context of, can the trail even go in if we decide it should? Like, you're saying it shouldn't even be allowed to be considered, right? Because,
Within 300 feet.
yeah, within 300 feet,
Except
right?
for the deviations.
Right, and I'm saying that if there is a community need, which totally, maybe there's not, there's plenty of trails in town, we shouldn't even worry about it, but maybe it is a possibility that a trail, a certain type of trail at a certain time in the town forest that is within 300 feet might be appropriate. I think that's reasonable. And I would say that the impact on wildlife is, I'm gonna say negligible. That it's not the net negative.
Well,
Right,
I know you're going
yeah.
against what, dozens of reports say.
I've
But
never,
who can say that?
I have not seen that in my own
Well,
life.
then these
And
PhDs are. full of
I
shit,
have
then.
not seen, no, I haven't seen it in the studies either. That's where I guess I struggle. There's a zone of influence, right? Is a zone of influence. It doesn't mean net negative impact on, right?
Right.
That's an impact, like my hawk story, I was impacting the hawk, but it was being fed by my impact, right? With my excavator,
Because you
right?
flushed it.
So, yeah, I mean, you can't just say that it's net negative from, we are a part of that ecosystem, like it or not. Maybe we're often a negative impact, but I think in the case of a trail, I would say it's not net negative, it's neutral.
We have a motion on the table for 100 feet.
Yes.
So what I'm been hearing from this discussion is maybe a call for an amendment to the motion that gives a different number. I don't know if it's.
I'll do better. I withdraw the motion. And somebody can put another one under.
We can always just amend the motion as it stands with a different number, because
So if you're gonna withdraw,
I'll withdraw.
whoever seconded it needs to agree to withdraw.
Fair.
And I think it was,
That was you.
I seconded
Oh,
that,
I think Jim said,
yeah,
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 so
but
That makes.
I'm also, honestly, in all of this, Brad, for me, it's more that you are passionate and you care so much. That's by far the most important thing right now, that if you really think 300 is the right number, then I'm totally on board with that.
so I just feel like it's.
I just trust in, 300, you look, with some species, it goes way up, you start spooking, and that stress wears on them, and it's not healthy. We're talking about trying to promote that forest for, wide ranging species.
Yep.
Namely, we're talking bear, bobcat, fisher, some of the big.
Their population's doubled, and
But-
time that trails of.
Yeah, can we just back up a second though? The reason why we use those buffers on all the other sections was because there's a specific thing that we were trying to protect, right? And there was a reason for it, and there was a reason that, you know, you could pick some animal that has a huge flight distance and be like, well, you know. An eagle has a flight distance of 5 or has a, yeah, maybe not a bird, but you know, like a moose or something and say like it's 500 feet, you know. But the question is, are the wetlands serving a purpose to those animals that have that high flight distance in a way that say a stream is not, you know, like I guess maybe in a drought. But that seems to be like an exception to the rule, and so I'm just curious if a well-intentioned reason to buffer out the wetlands by 300 feet is extreme, because there's actually, if all, let's say, all the bobcats and the deer and the bears in the forest are going to streams or other places, you know, for water, and the only things in that wetland has a flight distance of 100 feet, and then we buffer it by 300, then, you know, I almost feel like we don't have enough information here, and maybe we need to just leave it blank and come back next time, and people need to do like a little bit of research, but I just think we need justification for classifying the class 2 wetlands as the same level of important, like ecological importance in buffering as, say, a dry oak forest. Dry oak forest, we know, because there are bears, you know, bears are going there to, you know, to eat the acorns, and so they have a, you know, we're providing that 300-foot buffer for that. I am not, you know, hearing any argument or point, anyone pointing to a specific study or specific ecological function that would mean that we need to designate the class 2 wetlands as something that deserves that same 300-foot buffer. So to me, I feel like maybe we just delete the highlighted stuff, leave what's left, and then, you know, make it all black except for the last line, and we, you know, dig up a few sources that tell us about the, you know, ecological function and determine whether or not the, you know, the 300-foot or the 200-foot or the 100-foot works. Like, to Ian's point, we're gonna have to defend these numbers. And I'm prepared to defend the 300-foot on some of these other things, but if we get to wetlands and someone says, hey, why'd you choose 300 on wetlands? We'd be like, well, we thought it was as important, and someone will say, well, why? And it'd be like, well, I don't know, bears might go drink there, you know, and it's just like, well, we don't know, you know, whereas we can say, for hemlock, we know that the turkey and deer are there in the winter. For the dry oak, we know that, you know, that the bears are there. For the vernal pools, it's in the easement, and we know that it's being used by, you know, amphibians. And so we can draw a direct line in every single one of those other situations. The broken ledge and the talus, it's bobcats. But for the wetlands, it's what? I don't know what it is, you know, so like, I think that we just don't have enough information. I hate to kick the can down the road, but it seems like we're kind of at, you know, loggerheads here, and I think that
2 weeks.
yeah, we can revisit it in 2 weeks. I think that we should just look up and then just try to hammer it out in a quick vote. We've talked a lot about this. I think we just need we just need proof of like why, you know, I think maybe, you know, people for either the 300-foot or the 100-foot, if they are passionate about it, should do a little reading and then basically, you know, come with a few like thoughts prepared. We can have a quick discussion, put it to a vote and move on. But, you know.
Do you have any references supporting the 300 that you could send us
Sure.
to look at?
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Do we think
Yeah,
we should
that's a
move
great-
on? I think we're just kind of spinning our wheels here and, you know.
I wondered. The one thing on the 4th bullet. I wonder if it's too long, you know, it might be valuable to people just as a reminder that state permits are needed. And you put a period right after state permit, maybe in that first sentence. I don't
So
know,
you're suggesting we remove these two.
yeah,
Does anyone have any issues with me deleting these two?
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay, so let's get rid of that, and then we can look at the second one.
just to remind people, that's all. So no surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's in the, if it's in or if it should be in, the trail development part, not the, or sorry, the trail approval part. That I think is where the reminder should be,
Oh, okay.
is that when we're getting our experts to review, that's where we should say, you know, FYI, you know, this is when you
Oh,
This is
okay.
when you contact the state.
Yeah,
Cause otherwise we'd be saying this for every single section, like, hey, make sure to check with the state, you know? So to me, I feel like this should be lower. I think it's a good point, and I think we should call it out, if it's not in that section, but I think here, I don't think we need to tell people. Yeah, I don't know,
right.
thoughts?
I agree.
So did it remove?
So at this point, we're putting in some numbers. And then the provision comes later with the trail deviation review process to deal with. Like exceptions to those numbers. So I'm seeing that. At some point, we've got to put a stake in the ground and put a number in, recognizing that. We've also got this section for the deviation review.
Say that again, at some point we gotta put a stake in the ground and,
I'm saying that. What you've deleted. Was a point of reference. And without it, there's no point of reference, so the deviation. Process doesn't have a starting point.
the starting point is the buffer, which we're gonna come back to.
Okay,
So the starting point is the 50 foot and whatever we come up to here, so if we put 300 foot here. Then let's just take, for example, the vast trail reroute, since that's like the hot topic here. So let's say we decide next time that we vote and it's 300 feet. Somebody wants to put a trail in and they're saying, yes, I wanna put a trail 50 feet north of the vast trail. Right along where the wetlands is, they're gonna go through this and they're gonna say, oh shoot. I'm within that 300 foot buffer zone. Well, I guess I gotta scroll down, because at the top of the section it says. It talks about the trail deviation, right here. Exceptions may be allowed if in compliance with the trail deviation review process. So you would get to this point in the document, you would say, I'm in violation of the 300 foot buffer, let me check the trail deviation process, and then you would go down and it would say. If it's a reroute, here's the, the allowance for reroutes. So I think it's still, that allows us to plant the flag and say, here's what you should be doing. In this case, we're rerouting because we need the trail, but it is still in a sensitive area, here's how you handle that. Does that work, or are you still seeing as a flaw here?
yeah, I think. What I'm arguing for is. Put a number in here and put a number that's a large one. From which it's possible to retreat in the deviation process.
Right.
But that's also sort of putting an arbitrarily large number in, that's like bartering, where it's like, or haggling, it's like, I'm gonna just throw out an absurdly large number in hopes that we end up somewhere.
Yeah, because Brad I think was saying that there are sources for these large numbers.
Yeah, so I'm saying we need to come back and talk about that number next time, because we could keep deliberating over that number and nobody's providing any supporting evidence here. And I think we need to read up on this and decide whether or not class 2 wetlands they deserve the same level of buffering. I don't know if they do, I don't know if they don't. And I think you pointed out, you made a great point in that we need to defend whatever buffer we choose. And right now feels a little bit arbitrary. We have people that would prefer to see it as 100, and we have people that would prefer to see it as 300, but neither is necessarily right. They're just numbers that people are suggesting. So I'm suggesting, I'm bleeding this red, we'll come back to it. People can do a little research, and then we can hopefully have a quick little discussion saying, well, here's the evidence we found. And everyone can just vote according to their conscience, right? There may be evidence for and against, we'll just put it to a vote and then, we can move on. But I think that.
Well, okay, I agree that. That's a good plan, and to come back with a number for which we can provide the evidence.
Yes, exactly. That's the hope here.
Hey, kind of a scenario idea, what if we made that wetlands and vernal pools, right? And then you made a third bullet that said vernal pools.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, does anyone care about that? Just to tighten it up.
This one.
So we basically just do this.
And then,
We're just saving a couple lines there like that.
or I would just add it as a third buffer. So
Oh, gotcha.
put vernal pools in the lead-in sentence. So they would get.
Yeah,
Wetland natural and vernal pools.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
and vernal pools, 300.
Yeah, this,
Vernal pools have a primary and a secondary.
that's a lot for logging.
Yeah, it was for logging. We went through that and yeah, it's specifically designated, that way in the easement, but it doesn't apply to the trail development based on everything that we looked at. So I think that we're just simplifying it and saying, 300 feet. Okay, so this will be, if we're agreeing on it, black, right? So we're basically just gonna move on, and we'll come back to this next time. Jim, I'm assuming you already have it in the notes, but do you wanna just make sure to call out that as like an action item? Like anyone who wants to make an argument for, for the wetlands buffer next time,
Or again.
do your homework and.
Yeah,
Side.
I have in here that, Sonia asked if Brad could send some references.
Yeah, so,
Three
yeah,
hundred,
I just wanna reiterate to make sure people know that like, we're gonna talk about this again next time. And that people should, now's your chance to look into this stuff and decide, and to read up, because. If we only have an argument for one thing and nobody else has an argument that's supported, then I think we're just gonna go with the number that the one person with an argument has, so.
how important, I don't know. I feel like Brad's conviction is really an important factor for me, science is as well, PhD is but I do think that is not a small thing. That even if the science says 248 feet is the magic number, that if Brad feels 300 is really, I don't know how we incorporate that.
We all need to vote, according to our convictions, and everyone has different thoughts here, and I do think the science is important, but like. I think we just need the facts and then everyone can vote according to, what they think is right, but that's why I think we need to move on, is because. We could just keep talking about this.
Yeah.
But I think we know what we need to do to come back next time and hopefully have a short discussion and then vote on this.
Yeah, I think we all deeply respect.
I guess I don't-
Brad's passion,
Yeah, I agree.
But we need more in order to
Yeah.
act as a committee representing the select board.
Right,
Yeah.
I also don't wanna vote, I don't wanna vote in a way that creates animosity in our team.
Well, we sometimes have to make our choices, like when we talked about dogs and bikes, like Julian was not in favor of that and, we voted against. We voted against that and we moved on, right? So this is a similar situation where if it's a sticky situation, we just got to make a decision and move on and.
Bad example, he's still mad.
This might change, but I'm just saying that like, it goes both ways, right? Like if every time somebody had an issue. We could basically just filibuster the entire process, and in some ways that has sort of been the history of this management plan. There's been a lot of like filibustering over this or that, but if every time somebody says, well, my feelings are hurt here. Then we can't move on ever, and we'll just be eternally working on a management plan, so we're gonna move on. And we'll talk about this more next time, and hopefully we can do it quickly. But I'm going to use my fake gavel and move things along.
Virtual gavel.
Okay, so, Dan, the next thing on the list here is, the section that we had talked about, that ultimately Dan was gonna, potentially rewrite, this. In brackets, he was gonna rewrite this into a couple of sentences, keeping in mind some of the talking points that we had discussed in our last meeting. Is that something that you were able to do, Dan? Or do we need to revisit this next meeting?
That's my apologies. I did not get to that.
That's okay.
I'll do
We
it
got a
for
meeting in a couple weeks.
I'll do it for next time.
Okay, cool. Moving on, Brad, this one was oh, wait, no. This is separate. The next one, I think we're gonna have to.
Oh, the map thing, well,
Well, we talked about this. Did we?
quickly, that's gonna be a, kind of a big project, but I've been compiling maps from. Arrowwood. Field naturalist, Ethan, who may be actually the field naturalist map, maybe the one you used. And, I say Arrowwood,
You did.
I think those are the main ones, and, The idea is to put those all together, show buffers on there. And make it something someone could use.
Yeah.
Both to navigate. To kind of if they're bushwhacking. See where they're, heading, what they may be seeing on their bushwhack. Or disturbing, I suppose.
Who was the third, Arrowwood, Ethan Tapper and
Airwood,
Third and-
Field Naturalist Program.
Field Naturalist Program.
And, where I'm missing somebody, Field Natural, VLT.
So ultimately, yeah, I think we pointed this out because we did think it was a good idea to have a map that anyone building a trail could look at and say like, yes, you're going to, you're gonna draw your trail in on this
Right.
map, and we're having a standardized map.
Right.
I don't know if at this point in time, I mean, I'm glad to hear that, Brad, you've done some work to put some of that stuff together. I think that this should stay red for now, simply because we still need this map, and it's going to require some portion of time on a future agenda, which we're not prepared to talk about at this meeting.
Yeah.
So I think we should move on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that you're working on that. Maybe I'll coordinate with you and see if at some point it feels like we have enough resources to have a full blown discussion about it, then we should do that. And
Yeah.
ideally, we should do that before this management plan is finished, before the draft is finished and going to the select board.
You have to figure out who the map maker is.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we can't rely on, if not, either John Haddon, who can assemble all these data layers from those sources I mentioned. Or, Bob Lowe. Or, it's kind of a big job, or, Regional Planning Commission. This town goes to them all the time,
Yeah.
for zoning stuff.
Okay.
What's the map look like if we have setbacks of 50 feet,
Got it.
those guys crank it out. And then we can print right here, the town's now got a really nice map. We can print some stuff up. But anyway,
Okay.
that's a kind of.
We'll talk about
stuff I
that at
wanna-
a future meeting.
Yeah, I think.
Did you say John McFadden?
Hadden.
Haddon, I think it's HADD.
John Mc.
No, not a Mick,
Oh.
it's Haddon.
Sorry.
Like I had a good idea.
Can I just read, I got a map that I think
HADD,
is
yeah.
the one we will be talking about.
I could just add that all the shape files on that map were provided to us by either Arrowwood or Ethan Tapper, who
Ethan,
he got
right.
some of them from UVM naturalist group, but they were all like documented shape files that nothing that was just like preformed in there.
Airwood might have some newer ones based on their fine scale survey.
Yeah,
Is this the map that's all the basis for what we're looking for? I think this is based on the shape files that Arrowwood is using, I believe.
yeah. Some of those shape files are from Arrowwood and some are from Ethan Tapper. And that's it.
Ethan,
My only issue with this map is I don't know why it's so wide. It's definitely not the right.
It's
not-
horizontal format, yeah, you're right.
It's not proportional to any other map of ACF. I love all the natural areas and
Yeah.
there's a lot about this map I really like. The one thing I do not like about it is it's misleading. It's like looking at a globe, or something. And it's like,
The scale is
we're
different.
yeah, it's stretched in a way that this is not an actual representation of what most people are used to looking at. So to me, especially for the average person, if they've looked at this on anywhere else and then they look at this map, that immediately to me, undermines its credibility because it's not even the same shape as the plot.
It's unfortunate because computer screens are horizontal, so you're tempted, I'll use the whole screen, but you try that with.
You can always just rotate it 90 degrees and print it on a piece of paper, turn your laptop 90 degrees so you
Well,
can get more screen real estate.
Well, the map we have up on the kiosk is vertical.
Sure.
It really needs a vertical format with a legend of off to the side.
That should be fixable, right? I mean, whoever's gonna.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Just take-
I would hope so, especially if all the shape files were used, it should be accurate, it's just.
I mean, I've
It's
got
like somebody
I
just dragged the edge of the window too far.
Yeah.
have vertical versions of it, so that's not a big issue.
Well, I think ultimately, you know, these are all good things to be thinking about, but I don't think we're really prepared to talk about this today.
Yeah, we-
I
There's
think
stuff we
the
can-
warrants probably a good, 30+ minutes, maybe an hour, I don't know, when we have all those materials
Yeah.
gathered. And we're prepared to have the discussion, but
Yeah.
I don't think that day is today. Thank you for sharing that, that's.
Qualified ecology.
So yeah, Brad, you had a couple of action items here, one
Yeah.
was to determine what a qualified ecologist is.
Because we used it up. above.
Yeah, exactly, or if we should choose a different word, or, we could just say ecologist. So, and then the other thing was the Vermont Species of Conservation Concern. And so, yeah, any thoughts on either of those?
Well, I'll start with the second one, because it's easily disposed of. I was, that's nuts. Species of conservation concern, forget I ever said that. That list was literally over 1,000 things, and those species go down to stuff you need a microscope. So I think we gotta go back to a rare, threatened, endangered in there, which I think was the original. That's what's in the first plan, I believe.
Gotcha, so we would just change
Yeah.
this to rare,
Rare, threatened,
threatened,
yeah,
and endangered.
RTEs, they call those.
Like that.
Yeah, maybe, I've seen it where they put native into it, endangered native species. So we're not, no, don't worry about that, that's.
I think it's overcomplicating.
It is, yes.
Are people here with that? I guess I already deleted it.
Yeah.
Are we cool with just changing it to that?
Yep.
Great, all right, qualified ecologist, we'll be fine.
So here's the language I'm thinking of, and I made these up so you guys can read them.
So organized.
We'll name that.
Great. Okay. So. I'm thinking under the suggested revision, Dan, you can't see this, I'm sorry. But instead of saying just qualified, I'm suggesting we change the language and even, yeah,
Yeah, right.
change the language in the bullet and then add a footnote to even elaborate on it for anyone who wants to elaborate it. Where the bullet would say, engage a practicing botanist, wildlife biologist, or other qualified practicing ecological professional with a footnote mark to walk the flag route in 50 feet on each side to identify rare, threatened, and endangered native species who could kill native. That could be disturbed by trail construction or usage. Then the footnote would say the individual should have at least a bachelor's degree in ecology, botany, wildlife biology, forestry, or a related natural resources discipline. They should also show expertise in Vermont's forest ecosystems, along with familiarity with the Vermont Natural Heritage Inventory and our state's list of rare, threatened, and endangered species.
I like the revision, but I don't think the footnote is
You know
necessary.
what I mean?
I just think this isn't, like a job, like this looks
Right.
like this reads like
Yeah.
like they're applying for a job,
Yeah.
and like. I don't think it really belongs in this section, I mean, if we wanna put that somewhere in the management plan, sure.
Well, that
maybe.
might go in the RFP,
Yeah, yes, okay, yeah, I wouldn't mind that if it was in like an RFP, but to me. It just seems a little out of place,
I
because
think-
we're not doing that for anything else in here, right?
So, we've gotten great ecological advice from our county foresters. Could we? And they are ecologists and well, they're not biologists, but could the word forester be added to that?
Would they, because this is specific to trails, right?
Yep.
And I feel like Ethan, for example, he doesn't want to touch trails with a 10-foot pole. Right, he's
Good job.
like it's
Okay, all right.
What's the word? Anathema, is that the word?
Yeah, sure.
Saying that right?
Yeah, third rail.
Yeah, and I don't know if the forester is gonna be like, you know, the folks that saw those beach ferns or Arrowwood's botanists.
Okay, just,
I put botanists first only because it's pretty much gonna be plants. They're not gonna walk in and say, oh my gosh, there's a giraffe. You know, or whatever. It's rare.
Came for the wetlands.
Hmm?
The giraffe came for the wetlands.
No, that's right. They love those.
yeah, I'm fine with this. I just,
Yeah. But if a forester could say they're qualified practicing ecological profession. And, you know,
Are you thinking, right, that like the forestry, like future forestry considerations are kind of an important,
well, if we've got the county forester in to plan a forestry job,
there you go.
and we've got to reroute a trail because of the forestry.
the shrubs, you know, like they're small plants,
I
like.
mean, I'm walking with Ethan, because he's now our forester.
And he's definitely.
He knows
Yeah.
all of this stuff. I mean, I don't wanna pick on him in particular, but
Well, I
he's,
would call him a
yeah, so,
practicing ecology.
all right, so that maybe we're covered. That's fine. I was just,
Yep.
and I think,
You're flagging trails with them, is that what you're?
yeah,
Good forestry down.
right, yeah.
Okay,
He's, wait, is he, no, he's on his own, right? He's like
Yep.
a
He's a consulting forester.
consulting forester.
Yeah.
All right, I wrote it out so Dan can see and also, so we can see it in the context here. I've selected the thing that I would like to delete. I think that Brad's rewrite is better. Do people have thoughts on any tweaks they'd like to make? I think it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it's very,
I think it's fine.
Yep.
All right, great.
Wow.
Excellent. Hey, we finally made it to the line
stop.
with 25 minutes left. So yeah, I guess I will remove this because this bullet belongs with section 3 and we just really ran out of time. So I'll get rid of that. So this is where we were. We just did not address this yet. Oh, sorry. It's so small. Sorry, let me adjust. Oops. Really clean up garbage. Kind of like this. Too many controls. Was that too small of a section to look at at the time, or is that fine for people?
No,
Okay, so basically, just with context, we're in the expert review flagging and final map section. So this is the final point that we just did not quite get to, and we ran out of time last meeting, so.
This was like a sequence,
Yeah, basically, yeah, sequence of events for the flagging. Review flagging and final map. And we
And
just
this-
hadn't,
And what section are we in now? This is.
we are in the, this is in the, trail approval process.
Trail, yeah.
So there are the development parameters that has all the like areas and the buffers, and we have the trail approval process, which is basically just the chronological list of the steps that you should take if you're building a trail.
Yep.
so now everything.
So this is before the committee has even seen it. Oh, all right, that's not the way, sorry.
There's a line on a map, the ecologist is cool. with
Yeah.
Or we've adjusted according to what they find a little bit. And now it comes back to the committee.
Yes.
We ask questions about. And then we pass it on, see what RTC, RCC think about it. with that, with number 3. Is that where we'd have a big hearing?
The third bullet,
Third bullet, I mean, or just. We publicize our regular meetings, because we should probably, it's gonna warrant here.
no, but number 4 is the hearings, no?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where I am.
I would say
Oh,
number
right.
4 is where that would happen.
Okay,
So we're on
so
the
that
3.
would cover it here.
We're just talking about the language about this final, yeah, if we need to, like, do we need to go back through, just to like, so everyone has their bearings, so.
Yeah,
Somebody wants a trail. They document the need for the trail and like where it would go, we are gonna come back to the map, but they would have already like written it, like. Drawn it on a map, looked at the parameters, tried to their best to make sure it's a responsible trail, talk about the intended uses, bring it to our committee. And then, it would have preliminary approval, the scope is changing between just the document and my entire Zoom. And then. Assuming that there's nothing like wildly out of place with that initial proposal, and we think that it, seems promising. And there aren't any glaring issues, then, yeah, they go on to, do some, more digging to make sure that they engaged professionals to look at this trail and make sure that it looks okay, and then that is going to get put on a map. And I believe this is the last time, because we're already talking about reroutes here, unless something comes up in the. Committee review or the regulatory and legal compliance, or like the permitting, or construct, I mean, this is. Hopefully the last time that this map needs to be generated, which is, I think, one of the things we're talking about may have been like the word finalized, even though we're in like step 3. Whether or not we're comfortable with the language saying. Like trail, the final,
It's final proposal, isn't it?
what's that?
Isn't it the final proposal? I mean, final makes it
Yeah,
seem like.
finalized, finalized, proposed, yeah,
yeah.
proposed trail route.
What are you thinking, Jim?
Could it be that we're more concerned with what's on the ground? Like it's I guess, is the expectation that we're gonna get, like a GPS track that's been vetted?
It doesn't need to, I don't think it needs to be like we will be more concerned with what's on the ground, much like we talked about earlier today, like the painted trees, in the actual boundary versus what's on like the map. However. It's awfully nice to have a fairly accurate map. I don't think it necessarily needs to be like the perfect GPS, like we might generate a map after the fact. That is 100% precise, but for us to be able to make a, good judgment on whether or not the trail should proceed. I think that having, to the best of their ability, a map, the map with the trail on it is what we're asking for here.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
if we need, Ian, do you have a thought? Or-
Well, the map is one thing, looking at the route of the proposed trail on the ground is another. So a map with GPS allows people to actually follow the proposed route. Maybe the route should be, there should be some mechanism beyond the map for allowing for on-site.
So there is, the first point here is, engage an experienced trail designer to flag the preliminary route. So anyone who wished to see the trail could go,
Would follow
could go follow the flagging in the forest. So that way you wouldn't need a special software on your phone. I mean, you could just walk the literal path, that's flagged. So I think between having a fairly accurate map and a flagged route, we would have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I think I can withdraw my
Okay.
request for a GPS route if it's already flagged. I haven't noticed that.
Okay, if that's the case, does anyone have any issues with this, like rewritten version of this last point?
Not me.
No, I think it's good.
Fine.
Okay, I've lost the controls again. Sorry, just reorient myself here. Need a better system for this, I don't know why sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. It had been working great until. Second ago, okay, there we go. Oh no, and I lost it again. I don't know the last thing, so sorry.
With touch screen.
I have a touch screen, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's, I just keep losing, I was trying to stay zoomed in for you guys, but I'm also like losing my ability to, to change the color. So I guess let me just zoom out, and do that, and then we'll just zoom back in, rather than be fiddling around with this. My apologies. Okay, back to where we were.
Move me at sounds above.
Yeah, great, I'm gonna second that. To forgive myself. Okay, so on to 4, committee review and public input. So the next step would be, they present this proposal to, the committee for review. And then, I guess soliciting input from the, from RTC, RCC, and the general public. How would we want to do that? Would we just say, would we just warn? Like, I don't think that this needs to be like the way that we're doing applications to this committee, where it's like, oh, well, you have to go present your trail to this other committee and then come back. I think it would just be. Yeah, this is the committee, so we would duly warn the other committees to say, hey, we have a meeting on such and such a date, this person is coming. You know, it might be one of us, or it might be one of them, but just state the facts. This person has requested this trail, we're going to review it. You know, we would love to have your, presence and input, at the meeting. I think that is, I think that's the way to do it. I think we should clarify in here to basically say, maybe instead of solicit input from, we could say, like invite members, or like warn, members of these committees. To solicit input from, just so we're kind of being clear that rather than it being this open-ended process where we're sending somebody on a wild goose chase to check in with all these different bodies in town, we're basically saying, we're gonna have an efficient, hopefully, single meeting here where we talk about this trail and we make a decision, and any stakeholders who wanna be here can. And,
That's a really good point, and I think maybe what needs to be clarified is the subject. I think we talked a little bit about this last time, so who has to solicit? Is it us, or is it the applicant?
yeah, I think we should, so, yeah, that's a good point, so, yeah, maybe we just say like,
Committees,
yeah.
Warns,
warns,
notifies.
Don't use for.
Yeah, it seems a little.
well, yeah, I guess it's a warrant, like a publicly warned meeting,
Right.
but yeah, sure.
Invites. Input.
Yeah.
Or suggestions.
Well, I was gonna
ideas,
say,
suggestions.
invites
Yeah,
members from the, like, fall. I mean,
invites.
groups to solicit input, at a public meeting or something like that. I mean, that's like not very well written, but
That's the editor's job.
I guess, yeah,
Yeah, and invite and solicit doesn't condition anything on a response, like if RTC and RCC are asleep at the wheel,
either that's,
that can't be our problem.
yeah, exactly, same thing with the general public, it's
Yeah.
like, if we're warning that there's a meeting, we're gonna talk about a proposed trail proposal and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
Then,
We've done our job.
and
We
yeah,
assume it's okay.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Is anybody else tripping over that statement? The ACF invites members from the following groups to solicit input.
Yeah, you're right.
That's,
Yeah.
we're not inviting them to solicit input.
Right, I think we just invite.
Oh, yeah.
ACF invites input from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The following groups.
Yeah, exactly, you had it right the first time, yeah,
okay,
but invites for solicits, I guess.
yeah, I
I
like
would
that.
get rid of
Invites-
members.
You can get
Yeah,
messages.
But from the following groups. With,
Groups.
Yeah,
um,
that's
That's good.
I think,
like,
That's it, we're just
I mean-
inviting,
do we,
leading horses to water and all. that.
Yeah,
They can drink it in the Kool-Aid.
like,
Yeah.
I just think, do we need to clarify here that we're like, saying to, like,
I think we're fine,
to a public,
A warrant,
No,
public meeting.
because their meetings are warned,
Yeah, it's up to them. They
Okay.
can deal with it however they want.
Or regarding proposals.
right?
Proposal.
Fewer words, simpler process is best. You know, if they wanna do something special, they can, I think we should be minimalist.
yeah, I guess. Like, do we wanna change this, so? Like. If this, I'm just thinking, if I'm trying to, like, if I'm reading through this as an applicant. If it says like ACF invites, Or one, it will be ACFC, not just the forest isn't inviting, this committee is. I'm just thinking, if I'm reading through this, I'll just, note that it says, okay, the committee is going to do the inviting versus like, I don't know, I guess it doesn't matter one way or the other.
Looks fine.
Do we care? Will invite versus invites?
No, this is
We'll
good.
invite,
Okay.
that's fine, yeah.
Okay, this is one I think we talked about, right, where it was like. Do we, like,
Well, it was stronger before. We wanna solicit input from the abutters, and I
yeah,
felt that was too strong.
yeah, and they're kind of included in the
They're the
general public.
right,
Yeah, if we're putting a big old gate and a nature school, on the edge of Trelco or VYCC or Valley, we should notify them, otherwise.
yeah, but yeah, we talked about like, the Kellys don't need to know if we're doing something over on BYCC.
Exactly.
Or like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Okay, so this is fine as
Yeah.
is,
yeah.
okay, great. Regulatory and legal compliance. If we're talking regulatory and legal compliance, if we back up and are going to the expert review flagging and final map, we did say. We were going to mention like the state, the wetlands, we removed that bullet from the wetlands section because we said it was gonna go in here and it's not here. So do we want to add,
Okay,
like that we need to engage the state
we're just
for like the
saying,
wetland,
obtain any necessary wetland permits.
Yeah. Yes, but we don't know whether or not we will need a permit until we get the state to look at, we'll basically have the designer and the qualified professional. Check out like flag the route, right? And then after that. Tina basically said, then you should hit us up, even if you don't think there's a wetland. Or you might not be sure or whatever, like, we're happy to come out and verify.
Even if you don't think, like, I would imagine the botanist would check it out, like walking through there, like, look at it.
Yeah, I suppose if it was somewhere where obviously there's no wetland, then it would be silly to hit them up, but if there's any question whether or not. There's a
Yeah.
wetland, or there's like a CP area and we want them to look.
Yeah. But
They're not
isn't that-
inconvenienced by us reaching out and saying, hey, can you take a look?
Oh, as they shouldn't be, I think it's great, but I think, I mean, again, I think we want the least amount of language that covers our bases, and we don't want to tie ourselves in knots, so if the botanist, I mean, they would flag that. And they would say,
Yeah,
wet spot guys, look out, and then,
I just don't, I guess I suppose most professionals should bring that up, do we wanna just completely rely on their?
We could add,
And the experts-
species or wetland areas, as you mentioned.
Say again?
We could add. 50 feet on each side to identify rare, threatened, endangered native species or wetland,
Oh, okay, yeah,
state regulated wetland zones or something.
or potentially state regulated, yeah. Yeah,
Or potential, yeah.
cause they may not exist.
yeah, I guess it's fine as is, I guess, unless anyone has an issue with it, I'm okay with moving on.
Yeah, if you don't put wetlands in, I mean, we're giving the botanists the instructions here,
Yeah, we
so go ahead and put wetlands in there.
Okay.
But
Um,
yeah, that's as far as I would go, and then we would know that would trigger the visit from the
Yeah.
state. If
Got
they
it.
say, there's nothing here, you guys are good, if that seems fishy, given the map, then I guess we would look, but otherwise, I think. You know, if they have these qualifications that Brad has put down there.
So we just put it like that?
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, sorry to go back on that,
Oh, yeah, did you put something? Okay.
so back to regulatory and legal compliance, I mean, this is pretty straightforward, right? It's just like a checklist item, really.
Mhm.
Ensure compliance with things that people are hopefully already thinking of, but just in case just in case we have missed it,
Yeah.
and then. Prepare final supporting documents, so yeah, we've got the final trail map. The erosion and sediment control plans if necessary. And. I don't know, is there anything else?
That's good.
I think it looks fine to me.
Yeah.
I don't know much about compliance, but regulatory stuff, so.
Yeah.
I don't think. I'm missing anything, but maybe somebody, on the select board will look at this and say, hey, you're missing, a bullet here.
Mhm.
Approving and permitting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back to the colored stuff,
Yeah.
because, so I think at the bottom I still have the key.
Where did the wetlands, was that number 4? That went into?
In the, right, in the, what the botanist, the ecologist guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there right after species, after the word species.
Which section was that? though?
There's red.
3.
Green, screen.
Great.
And blue, red's purple, then it's orange.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah,
I
so
got a
right,
question for right here. Yeah,
Well-
why the trail committee and the conservation committee?
Well, don't we wanna get their approval,
Not just their input, but.
not just their input, don't we?
do we need their?
Isn't this the committee? And then, because like we respond to the select board, right?
We go to the select board.
And in theory, there's trails committee and conservation people in the room.
All right, so but what if it went to the Trails Committee preliminarily, they liked it,
Yeah,
and then we go to the Conservation Commission and they don't like it?
well, they would come to our hearing, right? Isn't, because that's.
Yeah, so-
Okay,
Yeah, we do have this up here,
And they could go to the select board hearing.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Just for
all right.
states.
all right,
Like, we want them awake and we want their input. I don't think we wanna be reliant on them to move.
yeah, I think the
Okay.
mechanism for their representation are the seats, right? The fact that. There are, 2 seats on either side, so to speak, from both the trails and conservation that are represented on this committee. And I don't think there's anything, and we don't necessarily wanna write anything in the management plan that's creating more hurdles that we need
Fine,
to
okay.
jump through.
So if the Conservation Commission didn't like it, they would they would not like it at the preliminary level.
Right. And they would talk about it in their own meeting, they would come here.
And
We might fix it.
And because we're like, I think it sounds like we're gonna have like the hearing,
Yeah,
alright, we're gonna have the hearing, at some point.
fine, we can get rid of it then.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought because the stupid Zoom thing is throwing me off again.
Okay, just cut it, and let's keep going.
Yeah, okay, great,
And does VLT, are they legally
Yeah.
bound to respond to this stuff?
yes,
Okay.
because they are,
Oh, well, are they, or trails
well.
on the management plan they are?
Maybe they don't, maybe they aren't, maybe it's just, I know they are for the management plan, but not, not
That would
necessarily.
be in the
trails.
Boy,
The grantor, grantation.
I know that, when I was talking to Rebecca Roman, when we had our walk, she was just like. I'm not gonna say that she didn't care, but it sounded like there was like a lot of flexibility, like, there are certain things that they do need to approve.
Right.
But in terms of like how you wanna recreate in the forest, a lot of that was pretty open-ended, and she was like, well, that's up to you guys, like, that's not
Okay.
like our job. So I don't,
If there's no violation of the easement, which I think is the only document they control.
Yeah.
Right. Then I
Fine.
think we're fine.
Because I think that the VLT view their obligation is ensuring consistency with the easement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the
Yeah.
scope of what they do when they make an approval or not.
Yeah.
Does it fit with the easement?
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Okay,
I agree.
cool,
So
so we
that goes.
can remove this.
Yep,
And they're in the review up above, so
No, I don't think
they're not even in the review.
I don't think we solicited,
No.
we could put them on the list of solicitations, in number
good
three.
Yeah,
Yeah, I suppose that, I guess that makes sense, and then that way, you know, they're like notified, but if you think about the number of properties that DLT is like the easement holder on, can you imagine if
Yeah.
every single time any trail needed to go in on any property, that they would have to be present and sign off on it, like that seems insane, so I don't think we even need to
I
put
think,
that on
I
there.
think Rebecca told me she was 400 properties or.
Yeah, and that's just Rebecca, right?
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah,
and they visit each property like once every 2 years or something like
I
that.
think you're right.
So, I don't know, to me, it seems like we're just adding things that don't need to be there.
Management plan, they do have to bless.
Sure, but are we just trying to invite them into a process
No.
that doesn't need them involved? I think I would be inclined to leave them off of this, if we
Perfect.
don't need them on it.
They're the grantee, right?
yep.
Okay, so on to construction and stewardship. So at this point,
Or is the town granting?
The group town is the or.
We're the grantor. We
yes.
gave away
Okay,
the
gotcha.
development right to them.
Gotcha.
As a young commercial lender, I had to figure that out.
Yeah.
So or
You told
is dirt and it relates to the land, like iron ore, so that's how I was able to get it to stick in my head.
Mechanic there, yeah. Nice one.
so moving on, to construction and stewardship. We had this, which is a comment by Ian, which was simply just adding hyperlinks to these two, guides.
Yep.
So I did that,
Well
and
done.
I'm assuming no one has an issue with that.
No issues.
I guess. I'm gonna remove, as we have before, the periods on the bullets. Oh no, I'm gonna go in with no stupid. Okay, there we go. There were comments on the other points, except for the last one, maintain a record of the trail project, which, yeah, makes sense, because we're talking about a single trail. Otherwise, we really open up the box of words there, and that's that. Which means that's a pretty good stopping point, seeing.
Change your header. The date.
I did write my revision if you want to look at that.
Oh, yeah, we got 7 minutes,
They don't understand.
if you wanna, do you wanna? Like share your screen or you could just read it and then we can just go back,
I emailed it to you.
oh. Cool, let
You
me,
can try to pull it up somehow.
no, I got it, 1 second.
What are we calling that section? Was that the hemlock? Section or what? What's the
Trail
rewrite?
approval section. Trail approval process.
There's something specific part that
Trail
Daniel was working
approval
on?
process.
You talking about the one that Daniel was working on, Jim?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Okay, so comparing-
The header for 622. Wait, is that true? No, that's not true.
Okay, so we can add,
At the top of 622.
okay, so basically this is the same as it was before.
Yeah, no change there.
Okay, so you added the rest here. Cool, yeah, I guess let me scroll down so people can see all of it, so I'm gonna zoom out slightly.
Trying to find a way to say that we want to give a little bit of time, between, but it's not linked directly to the management plan.
Yeah,
And that there needs to be flexibility for opportunities that come up, whether it's, or, because of damage or an opportunity because of volunteers or whatever. But I thought this maybe struck a good balance.
Yeah.
Seems smart.
Sorry, can you show me, Sam, what, are we looking at just purple? Are we looking at the?
this is what, so the highlighted section is what, already existed in the document.
Okay,
So we're looking back at, this is right, after the trail approval process.
Yeah.
We have.
yeah, we got that red section that Dan was gonna rewrite. and
Yeah,
then-
exactly. So before we had written,
Yeah.
he had written this, and then we discussed some stuff.
Right,
And we were, asking for like a tightening up,
Yes.
or like, clarification of that. And,
Yes.
some of the concerns were, on one side were, wanting to avoid like, piecemeal, trail building, like, in perpetuity. But other folks had thoughts that like, well, if we're only locking into doing this once every management plan update, then, we're kind of putting ourselves in a 5-year or whatever, 8-year cycle for the only time we could put trails in.
Yep.
So this is what,
does it start in general? Is that the,
Yeah.
okay. And then, cause I have each minute, okay. Okay, so I think, just a quick reading here, Dan, but the part that was confusing to me in the red section was the part that says after each management plan update cycle. Because I don't think that you mean, I think this is what Sam just said, I don't think you mean you can only propose a plan every time we go over or a trail, every time we review the management plan, right? New trail proposals.
Or have it reviewed. You could propose. But it's only not gonna be considered until after, it's just a.
that would,
It says-
I mean, you could submit a new trail and then it might just sit on ice for 3
Right.
or 4 year, or, so that's.
It does mean.
That's how I would read it, that's not what I would support, I mean,
Right.
I don't support that either.
I don't.
But I think Dan, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, I think by adding in general, he was trying to soften that.
Right.
I don't know what the intent is there, though, Dan, can you explain a little bit what the thought process is, because I don't think I'm interpreting it right.
Well, on one side, you can say we're only going to do it after every 5 years. So that
Yeah.
you do something and then you have a little bit of time to see how it goes and measure it and see what the impacts are, good or bad. On the other side, you have trails that you could propose, there could be new trails proposed every year,
Yeah.
or multiple times a year. So I was trying to strike a balance between those two diverse approaches. Maybe it's not quite right yet.
I got you.
I was trying to strike a balance.
I see what right, you said that, I didn't totally understand, okay.
I think considering the time, the time, because it is 2 minutes to 8:30, so we do need to wrap up.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful that we have this,
Yeah.
As an alternate option.
Right.
Either I can email this to folks, or if Dan wants to email it to the group, I think it's something for people to like chew on and look at, and consider for next meeting.
Maybe you send it to Jim, he can put it in minutes and then.
Yeah, come back to it.
Yeah, sure, we can do that, and then that way, people can look at this, like, I think this, we're probably gonna, wanna discuss a bit, and I think trying to do that 2 minutes before we're supposed to close, is probably not the right time for it. Dan, thank you, for writing that up and getting it to us, so we
Yeah,
can, look it over, and
Like the
discuss.
objectives.
Yeah,
I like
it's probably
it too. I
not
think
quite
it's-
perfect, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think this is an improvement, but I think it still needs just like a little bit of discussion, and I know that, because we're at time, I wanna make sure we have enough time to give it the thought that it needs.
And you're onto something, but.
But that's also the committee's job. If we feel we need to slow it down to digest Fred's new trail
Right.
for a year or two, we in a committee can do that, but if.
Yeah.
Well, we need to give ourselves the right to do that, is what I'm thinking.
Right.
Because we probably don't, in that trail proposal criteria thing, have something, not off the top of my head, that says, overall density of trails, or like recency, or we should give ourselves the right to put things on pause.
Right.
I'm not sure that I would tie it to a management plan update cycle, but we can come back to that.
Yeah, those are,
Yeah.
great thoughts for us
Yeah.
to talk about next time. I have similar thoughts. Okay, so that said, we're done with, our management plan edits for today and we just have closure. So. Does anyone have any business for upcoming meetings? I know we talked about the map. Like potential map, I don't know if we're gonna have that ready for next time, but you know, we talked about like whatever the official map is gonna be used for the trail development process, probably not in 2 weeks from now, but hopefully soon. So that's something on our radar. Aside from that, we did get an email from someone asking about following up on whether or not there was gonna be a public feedback meeting. Which I responded to. We talked about it sort of the last 2 meetings. On the 22nd, we discussed what I ultimately sent to the select board, basically checking in with them, telling them about sort of the feedback we got and how we should proceed. I basically said, we're gonna keep working on the management plan unless you would like us to do otherwise. And I heard back from 2 of them saying, yeah, sounds good. And the other 3 I didn't hear back from at all. So we just continued to work on the management plan, and I basically followed up and said to the person who acquired that, like, that was our plan, and that, you know, if the select board beckons us to talk about it with them, then we'll do so, and we're happy to have a public feedback meeting if that's what the select board wants. But I figured I would just mention that because it was just like a random thing that came up, and I just sent out basically the minutes, which reflected that, and like the timestamps to those recorded meetings.
So the next 2 weeks from now, which it's not quite 2 weeks,
The 10th,
is the 10th.
yep. Yeah, the 10th and the 24th are the next 2, according to our normal cadence, which would put us on, yeah, well, the 10th, and then the next one is the week of Thanksgiving, if that, you know, matters for people.
Yes.
6 PM for both November meetings.
Yeah, I think unless otherwise noted, 6 to 8:30 has been what's been working pretty well. I know, Ian, you had a.
Yeah, the 6:30 was to try and accommodate a conflict that I have, but I don't think it was working. So I'll handle the conflict one way or another.
Okay, so
With,
yeah,
2 meetings that I should be out at 6 PM.
okay. So any issues with the 10th and or the 24th?
No.
No? Okay,
No,
Context.
I know you did. You're far more dedicated than that.
Time something.
Sam, did
can we
you,
get, motion, what's up?
sorry, just on that last, did you say you received a question about opportunities to give public input?
Yeah, I just got a follow up about whether or not there would be a public feedback meeting, and like when it would be.
Okay.
And
And then
I basically responded by saying, at this time, we decided not to divert to have a dedicated public feedback meeting because we're, you know, getting to the end of the management plan edits. We've discussed it, and you can, there's 30 minutes or so of video that you can reference from a former meeting where we talked about this stuff and our reasoning behind why we would have that full public feedback meeting now versus in, you know, a few months, once we're done with the management plan, you know, draft. And that reflects what I sent to the select board, and the response I got from the select board was, yes, this sounds good, essentially. You know, 2 of them I heard that explicitly, the other 3, unless they completely ignored my email and just didn't respond. If that's the case, then I did say in there, like, let me know if you want us to, you know, to talk to you about this or to schedule a public feedback meeting now. We are happy to do so. I did not hear any indication from anyone on the select board to say you should pump the brakes and have a public feedback meeting now.
It wouldn't make sense.
So it's all sort of like, what's that?
Let's wait till we have a product.
Yeah,
we'll be
exactly.
ourselves.
Exactly.
Me and Brad will get up there and, you know, pull each other's hair and see that. Go this guy, go later. It's not even fun.
Yeah, so it's in the minutes, and it's in, you know, and like, so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that in case anyone asks, like, hey, I thought we were gonna have a public feedback meeting. That's kind of what we sort of talked about and, you know, kind of agreed to, I guess, in a sense, in that meeting where we had a lot of public input. But then after we discussed it further, we decided, well, we're planning on doing this, but like not this month, you know, because we're so close on the management plan, it makes more sense to just finish our work and then have that be a part of the process. And that's why we checked in with the select board, they basically gave our progress report, and said, here's where we're at, please let us know if you want us to stop and have this public feedback, and they basically said, you know, either sounds good or didn't say anything at all, so I take that to mean we're okay, you know, we're not gonna do the public feedback meeting for now. But we're aware of it, and we're planning on having it before, you know, we stamp this management plan for final approval, because there are still pending concerns over things like dogs were meant, in this email, there was specifically a question about dogs.
Hmm.
But I know there are also concerns about bikes, so. I just wanted to mention that, versus just doing it all, you know, behind the scenes. But it sounds like we're good on our future meetings, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.